Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the I Rate Your Pokemon series. On this episode, we're going over a very special submission. It's one that was done by none other than IBenBrown. Now, for those of you that don't know, IBenBrown, friend of mine, we watch each other's videos. He's actually a fellow YouTuber. So I'll be leaving a link to his channel in the description. If I forget, somebody please remind me in the comments because I do want to give him the attention and the promotion that he deserves because he makes good content. I watch his videos within a day after they get released every time. He's got some great content. But anyway, Ivan Brown submitted a thing to me asking, so, long time watcher, first time submitter, thank you for all the good you do for the Pokemon Sleep community. In my opinion, you rank somewhere in the top 2 for Pokemon Sleep content on YouTube, and you're my number 1 if I'm being honest. I can say likewise to you, man. That's me, buddy, and I can say likewise to you. Keep up the great work, and congrats on hitting Master 20 on OGPP. Also, from me to your viewers, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Watching this channel frequently has helped me make serious strides. So that's the starting off thing. Thanks for all the well wishes, man. Anyway, situation. So here's the situation. Since we're in a slow week, I have more time to think about future investments. I wasn't planning on ever hunting or even using Mimikyu, but suddenly I have 3, and they have me Mimikyu because they're all above average. Assuming I would be willing to use any number of skill seeds to fully max out one of these, gold and silver, how would you go about making a decision? Should I think of Mimikyu as a generalist option? Would it be only best to only run on OGPP? Seems like Help Bonus would be a wise option because this would be a Pokemon that sits on the team but is that better than slightly better skill procs. Should I run it until a big hit and then swap it? Any and all tips appreciated. Thank you in advance if you choose this, of course. Well, not only is this from a fellow YouTuber, which I like to make content and discussion about, but also it's a very interesting topic of discussion, and it took me a lot longer to answer than I thought it would going into it. So, Mimikyu. Very, very bizarre Pokemon. I never really deep dove it before because I haven't gotten around to that episode in my series on reviewing all the Pokemon. So, we're going to do a mini deep dive today, and I'll leave more discussion for it around that point. More math, more numbers as to how to best use it. May even end up making a strategy talks video on it because honestly, there's a lot of interesting stuff when you consider the chance to crit and the fact that there's only 1 crit per day. But before I get into that, looking at these 3 Mimikyus side by side, first thing I noticed, this last one. Oh, and Ivan Brown has also included his own comparisons that he made of these Mimikyus. And he found, interestingly, I looked at his results, and what I'm seeing in production comparison is actually resulting in some of the Mimikyus turning out higher than what it did for him in procs per day. But that's likely due to just difference in these settings up here, energy settings, potentially sleep schedule settings. That's probably where the difference is coming out to be. So, for comparison, I put them in just at level 60 because Mimikyu functions kind of like a berry specialist, almost. You can compare it at earlier levels, like level 30, then the numbers do come out a little different, but in most of my comparisons, this one in the middle with helping bonus does actually come out on top of the others. Now, in his analysis, this one came out on top, but the difference was pretty slim. He has a difference of 3.76 versus 3.71 procs per day. 3.76 here, 3.71 here. I also gave them all a ribbon. Inventory, I guess, could maybe play a part in that, since this one's more speed focused. Like I said, I don't know where the difference is coming from, but it's probably just one of those. It's definitely one of those settings. So, the differences between their number of procs per day, given that we're getting different numbers, I'd assume that the difference is so small that it's going to be basically negligible. And in that case, the help bonus one is definitely more worth it. And if you throw them in a basic team analysis that I did here, I made a couple example teams. This is the one that has helping bonus. It's coming out to about 1.58 mil. Versus without the helping bonus, this is the other one. It's coming out to 1.50 mil, which is 80,000 over the course of a week. That's about just over 10,000 a day. That's a pretty significant difference when you consider all those factors. So, I would definitely say the help bonus one is the way to go. The third one, on the other hand, is just really not worth it. Theoretically, at level 100, it even at level 100, it like barely outproduces the others for numbers of procs, despite having some of the best sub skills in the game for it. That speed of help down nature just kind of hurts it overall. So I really wouldn't recommend the third one at all. So I'm just going to take it out of the analysis, remove it from the analysis for the rest of this video. Um, but the other two comparison, I found that this one is really doing better at pretty much every level for procs per day, and it has helping bonus. Um, so, and even if it did have more procs per day, that helping bonus is more valuable, in my opinion, just because it's boosting the rest of the team further. I was evaluating it as 0 help bonus stacks, but in Pokemon that we think of more generalists, I like to put this setting to be null, just blank, because what that do is it evaluates helping bonus as it's trying to include and account for the strength of the other team members contributed, which for Pokemon that are more a generalist role or a berry specialist, just contributing total direct strength to Snorlax, I find that this setting, I think, more accurately reflects their actual team contribution. You want this to be 0 when evaluating Pokemon that are gaining strength from their like number of skill procs or number of ingredients produced, because those are the numbers you're looking for. In this case, you're looking for strength. So I would set help bonus stacks to just null, which in that case, you can really see a huge difference. And this one obviously is way, way stronger if you use that setting. But for the rest of the analysis, I'm going to have it set to 0, because the Pokemon that I'm comparing it to, other than that, is what role is Mimikyu really supposed to fill? Now, this comparison here is not perfect, because it is comparing at level 60, which is going to take a very, very long time to get to level 60. But realistically, Mimikyu doesn't really perform like others until it gets to level 60, just because it itself has... It's a weird Pokemon in that it relies on its own level and skill level. It's one of the only Pokemon in the game that is like that. So, like, if I make it level 30, it doesn't compete in the slightest for a generalist role. As you can see here, even with the maxed out level skill, 17k versus 51k. In fact, even having Favored Berry, it doesn't beat out this Golduck, which all these have the same sub-skills for comparison's sake, aside from the Berry specialists. But the other skill specialists, I give them all the same sub-skills, which this guy really, at level 30, isn't worth it. Even at level 50, let's see how it compares. It's a little bit stronger with Favored Berry. So it really depends on getting it to a much higher level in order to compete and do better. But once it hits level 60, then with Favored Berry, you can see it drastically outperforms. Now, you do have to consider that when using production comparison, it's assuming that all of the all the berries that Mimikyu produces through its Berry Burst skill are going to be Ghost Berries. And that's a very important differentiation, because if we make Ghost Berries favored, then Mimikyu is going to do a lot better in the production comparison than what it would otherwise, because in reality, you're probably not going to have a full team of ghost Pokemon. So it's going to be weaker if the only berry that matches is Mimikyu's berry, because if it's alongside 4 electric types, which could be the case, if you have that happen, then that's a pretty weak berry. And that's going to make Mimikyu comparatively worse, especially if the electric type's not favored, because this is assuming they're all ghost. And in this case, it's assuming they're all favored. So realistically, it's just kind of weird, and when it has favored berry here, it's overvaluing it. But when it doesn't have favored berry here, it's undervaluing it, because it's assuming that none of those other berries are favored berry. So the comparison here really isn't perfect, but you can see that if it was the case that you have nothing favored at the island at all, then Mimikyu does do quite a bit worse than other generalist options, but notably compared to like Raichu, if you have this is a pretty good Raichu, or this for Alligator, it's about the same roughly. So it's kind of in a weird spot that it can do it if you don't have other options for a generalist that you've already invested. I know that you, IBenBrown, have invested in a couple Golducks, so it's probably better to stick to your Golducks for generalist options. But I decided just to see if we take into account the full team context, how does that compare? And when I ran a couple theoretical teams, uh, I found it interesting. I think this page doesn't actually take into account Mimikyu's berry differences, so you have to actually click into them to see how the Mimikyu is performing. I made just a comparison of Mimikyu compared to Ampharos of the same type, or of the same subskills, and max level skill on both of them. You can see that the Mimikyu here, without any favored berry Pokemon, it's way worse than the Ampharos, like 12k worse per day. But if I give it just grass, fighting, and psychic berries, which is like Lapis, so if I just put this Quackle Ball in the Gardevoir, so that's 2 Pokemon that have favored berry, it's going up to 45k. That's a much closer gap in the amount of strength here of only about 5k difference. So then I was like, well, what if it's what if now Mimikyu instead is the one with favored berry, and none of them have, and then there's only like one other. Well, in that case, Mimikyu is basically functioning like a berry specialist, and it just trounces out the Ampharos, 65k versus 50k. So, if Mimikyu has favored berry, it's a better generalist option. If Mimikyu doesn't have favored berry, but there's a lot of other favored berry specialists on the team, it gets close. If there's no other favored berry specialists or Pokemon on the team, then it's just way, way worse. But then I was like, well, what if it's all favored berry? How does that compare? But Mimikyu itself doesn't have any favored berry. And in this case, it's like 49k versus that 50k. Oh, that's with Ampharos having favored berry. Ignore that. With Ampharos not having favored berry... Oh, wait a minute. I think I skipped an analysis here. It'll be about 50k, because it'd be the same. So, that's the way we're going to look at it. Additionally, the other Pokemon's level on the team matters. Because as you can see here, this is... with them being all the levels, like this Victory Bell's level 50, this Meganium's level 41. If we change those to all be level 60 and favored berry, then it performs 51k, which is like slightly better than the comparative and equal Ampharos of, well, actually it's about the same, 52k. Like, they're really about the same if it all lines up. So Mimikyu is just in a weird spot if it wants favored berry, but it works as a generalist better than other berry finding generalist options. And yeah, that's really how it comes out. It's a weird Pokemon, a very, very weirdly designed Pokemon, because it is a berry specialist, but it's not. It's also a generalist, but it's not. It's kind of in a weird middle ground where it's kind of trying to do both jobs. And it does them both pretty well. Not perfectly, but if you need a Pokemon to do them both pretty well, not perfectly, then that works. And here's the Berry Finder comparison. I find this to be insane because Banette is honestly kind of a sad Pokemon in this game. Compared to the Mimikyu at the same level, you can see that it's way outperformed, but keep in mind, once again, it's assuming constant favored berry, as you see here. So, you would need, for an equivalent Banette to produce the same amount of berries as this Mimikyu, you need to have Berry Finding S, Helping Bonus, Help Speed M, and a Help Speed Up Nature. But this probably isn't perfectly accurate because we could theoretically give this Banette skill seeds to boost it further. I didn't do that in this analysis. And additionally, some of the Mimikyu's berries are not going to be Ghost type. And then there's also the question of, do I wait until a great hit or great success and then take it off the team? Well, I did a little bit of math to kind of account for that. As you can see here, it's about 53k for, or 237 berries for 4.57 procs. We can actually find the numbers of how many berries it produces. It produces 41 per proc. I know it says 21 plus 5, that'd be 26. But that is not how the math works out. This 5 is 5 berries from each other team member. So that's over 4 team members. That's 20 berries additional. So it produces 41 berries a proc. This calculator is basically assuming 237 to 4.57. That's accounting for the chance to crit every day. So I reverse engineered that, figured out how many berries it's adding on for it, and then took that as a percentage, and then removed that from the total strength, and the total strength come here. And basically, after this guy procs its great success, so there's no longer a chance of great success, then it obviously reduces its strength, and its new projected average output, I said, or the math that I came to came around 61,000 or 62,000. So it's still producing about the same amount as this Banette here, which is berry finding as help bonus and a speed up nature. So if you're making this comparison, you can see that this Mimikyu is a phenomenal invest, because I don't think anyone would think twice about investing into this Banette. In fact, this Banette would likely be a mainstay on whoever's team it was after finding it, because that is just one of the best Banettes you can find. And this Banette over here, what it's looking like before it procs the potential crit is even stronger, and you'd still consider investing into it. The only difference is this one takes main skill seeds, these ones don't. So, really odd comparison. I hope I've answered it pretty well. But unless you're going to take it to level 60, it's not really worth using in almost any circumstance. Because even at level... If you have it at level 30, it's not doing that well, even when it has Favored Berry compared to the other skill specialists. So, yeah, it's a weird Pokemon, but I like it. I like it, but it takes a lot of levels before it becomes actually useful and good at its job. So, yeah, if you learned something, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. This was a very difficult one for me to answer, but I enjoyed it. Thanks, IBenBrown, for sending it in, because it gave me something to do and think about. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, if you have enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe. It does help out the channel. Join us in the Discord. There's always 2 ways to submit a video or a Pokemon to me if you want it to get reviewed in a video like this. One way is through the Discord and the YouTube Rate My Mon channel. Another way is through the Google form in the description. I'd love it to have it either way. Both are acceptable. And yeah, as always, thank you guys for watching and hope that you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye now.